Well, hello, my fellow Americans and fellow Christians. Thank you for taking time to listen tonight. My fellow Americans and Christians, it is Sunday evening, and my first inclination is to think of how many people went to church today. How many left their citadel with the rubber stamp of God upon them. Of all the arguments I can make, one seems to be of stout surety, that the preacher today does not possess the Spirit of the Lord, but is ever trying to prove he is unarguably a man of God. The clergy today is evermore walking hand in hand with society, and they are always trying to prove they can reform it. The parishioners all but settle back in their pews with their legs crossed, never realizing that ignorance graces the preacher, for society will never reform until man is reformed. Man's reformation can never be achieved until preaching returns to speaking of the power of God that moves within a man's soul. The big top auctioneers we see today of Christianity have reduced the power of God to a simplicity of just believing with their blessing, not God's. And it is okay to continue on in the dark ways of the world and be part of it. St. Paul writes, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them." The drama of Christianity in America has as its prologue today the preface of a nation that has no goodwill and no censorship of the dark qualities that are evermore bringing its eventual destruction. This is not a fanaticism or religious superstition. It is possible fact that may reduce a nation to ashes. We read in Revelation 18, "Babylon the Great is fallen, it has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird." The weight of this scripture holds the sword of Damocles over not only this nation, but Christianity itself, as both clergy and citizens are doing nothing to escape these marks of evil upon them. No one seems to understand what a dangerous position we have put ourselves in. I'm not trying to be prophetic, but the violence in America is nothing more than a forerunner of this nation either being attacked, engulfed in world war, or eventually become reduced to ashes as Babylon the Great is prophesied to end. We as a nation no longer rely upon the precepts of the Lord to keep us. We have a self-reliance which has produced the very deceits upon us. We do not see ourselves any longer as a people who mock the righteous ways of the Lord and the impending necessity of returning unto them. We live in a dark nation, and we are starting right now to stare into the abyss. We no longer shield and withdraw ourselves from evil, but live with the ingenuous thought that darkness and unrighteous living is now honorable. It is in every form and facet of our society, ever forgetting that we are giving ourselves over to wrath, which has raised its head ever so powerful in the last week through mass shootings. It is troublesome to me that no one is appalled by these continual attacks upon society, that devilish monsters roam the nation with no reserve, how there is not the slightest attempt to curb their path and power by clergy or citizens. Violence and contempt among one another is now the expression of our society. It has become our epic and will never lose its specific character unless we return to the values that once graced this country. In all honesty, we have become the spectacle in the eyes of the spectator. clinging to falsehoods that have haphazarded the church and the nation. Like the upheaval of an earthquake, we will change the whole face of this nation as we adhere to the demons of the current day, which are destroying us. As I have mentioned before, so I mention again. The faults I have spoken about are eradicable. But one certainty will come of this work, that my dramatization outlined will not be considered penetrating to the soul, and that undoubtedly I will find I have failed overwhelmingly to warn a nation. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.